don't hold on to shit because now you living or die. You know what I mean? Like you literally like are stuck in a moment and you're not moving. You're not living. You're just it's just cycle, 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 cycle. The freshest thing about life is to be able to change.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today we got a very special guest in the building. Man, he's a film fanatic. He's a member of Save Money. Recently released It's OK Loverrr.
Sue. Tommy, 3 times, superstar, all that. You see the fashion, you see the fits, you see the vibes. Yeah, with Sad Boys, we some real Sad Boys.
Sad Boys for real.
Yeah.
Shit, I appreciate you coming through, man. Like I said, you showing love, it definitely helped affirm what I was doing. For a little while there, we were going through some rough patches. So when you're going through those rough patches, it's easy to feel like, man, what's going on? Am I doing shit right? You know what I'm saying?
Nah, it's always the other side. Especially like you just told me this is your 126th episode. That means like you've been consistent.
But nobody knows what goes on in the background.
It don't matter, you do. So it's like at the end of the day, everybody gonna catch up because the product is there, the growth is there. You know, like it takes time for it usually takes time for people to catch on to growth because it's not necessarily anybody's responsibility to keep up with your growth. But when they see it, same way I stumbled on the shit after so long because you had some of the homies on here. You know what I mean? So it's like you've been doing it so consistently so long and the quality is there. So then it gets noticed at whatever point it does. You just gotta get to the other side of like the rough shit.
That's the most important part when you're a creative for anybody out there, right? Whether you're a music video producer, you're a video producer, you're an artist, you want to make sure that you're staying consistent with everything that you're doing
Mhm.
because that's how you stay in the eyes of the people.
Facts.
And eventually the right people are going to stumble upon your stuff. Let's talk about the album, right?
Let's talk about it.
You opened it with your voicemail,
Mhm.
right? Leave a message at the beep.
Mhm.
And throughout that, there's a bunch of little skits in there where people are blowing up on you, you know, kind of just being like, "Where the fuck are you?"
Mhm.
What was the message you were trying to convey with all of this?
When you going through something, like regardless of what it is and you need to focus up on it, sometimes it's hard to give other people your like maybe prior engagements, maybe just, just friendships and relationships like your um not even your undivided attention, but just attention in general. And maybe sometimes you fail as a friend, maybe sometimes you fail as a business partner, but these are all because you have to like spend your energy on yourself at the in certain moments, you know. So like I think the message was, like there it's it is important to remember that there's a bigger world outside of what you're going through, what you're zoomed in on and going through and kind of like ruminating on or whatever. So I think it was just to get a point to get the point across that like maybe people do care about you and you have to remember that sometimes. And sometimes you could get relief by not forgetting about these people because the life goes on. The world, like everything keeps turning and all that shit. So I think that was the general message though. It was just to kind of just give people that feeling of somebody who's out of touch and it's a problem for everybody else who kind of loves him and is trying to get in contact with him and trying to do business with him. And, you can't always just harp on a problem because it's other shit that you could solve.
How did you see that character within yourself?
Shit, that was me. That was really real. Like niggas was like it was their funny skits, but like those was like real moments of like I was going through some shit. Sometimes when I'm going through some shit, I might not be the easiest person to reach, or I don't be like for me it's not necessarily easy reaching out to people.
You don't realize how much of a problem it is for other people when you have all this other shit going on with you, or when you're so focused on one thing, right? How did you notice that impact the people around you?
When you actually get the time to tap back in and you realize you've kind of neglected other shit, it's like going into debt or some shit. It's like you maybe might be going out and splurging, doing all sorts of shit that you want to do, but then you've like neglected this whole other part of your life that that is a foundational part of your life to keep up with whatever the fuck you got going on. So it's just when I realized that I was kind of like, damn, I do gotta be a better friend. I do gotta be like, back on my business. I do gotta like get out of, just trying to hyper focus on fixing maybe one problem when, and not that everything is a problem, but like, I have to start applying the same energy into all sectors of growth and shit. Like I can't just be trying to just fix and grow one thing.
So then what changes have you made to make sure that you're following that kind of guideline you've set for yourself?
What they be saying, the first stage is like accepting. So like I feel like once you accept that that is a real problem that you can't really put off, like neglecting other people because of your personal problems, then you just start to make the changes. You just start to like be more intentional about like, you know, reaching out and standing on whatever business that you had. And through doing those things, you tend to realize like that helps cure whatever else you're going through, because life is like some fluid shit. You don't just get to pick and choose like what you going through. Like I always be using um like somebody who I really like look at, and it's a tragic thing. It's like Robin Williams, um really beloved person, like real funny dude, all of this shit, killed himself. And I always be thinking about that shit because I be like, damn, like you can be having so much in the eyes of others, and ultimately it's about defining your own happiness, right? Whether it's like from a mental illness standpoint, like things that you can't control, and things and on top of those things that you can control is what you need to focus on. And some of the best things that we have that we can control are our relationships. So to be able to um maybe maybe you're suffering in certain relationships, but be able to control and have the access to other relationships, it's important to like take take account and take notice of that shit, fix those things, and you know like allow them to give you some energy.
Whenever you're going through a bad moment,
Mhm.
like you said, right? Whenever you're going through a bad moment, people only focus on the bad.
Exactly.
They don't realize all the other good shit that's happened to them. They don't realize the other parts that make up their current situation.
Exactly.
And you lose appreciation for that. So now you're only focused on the bad, which impacts everybody around you. It impacts you. It makes you think that my life is terrible. And
Right.
when you carry this negative energy, you carry this negative mindset, you're only creating a negative situation for yourself.
No, 100%.
Music isn't your only creative outlet. It's not your only passion. Film is another passion of yours.
Mhm.
And for this album, I realized you're doing a lot more expression outside of just the lyrics, but with the production,
Mhm.
with the way things are structured, with the way things are layered.
Mhm.
What do you feel like you were able to convey through the sounds and through the actual instrumental that wasn't conveyed through the lyrics?
Also, shout out my brother Knox Fortune. Shout out all the producers on
Daniel
this.
Radcliffe?
Daniel Radcliffe, gang. My nigga Harry Potter, folks. He came with the magic. Yeah, nah, the production I think was super dope. Like, cause you know, a lot of the songs or a lot of the production is pretty happy, like in the sense of like how it sounds, but then the lyrics got to be like maybe a little bit sad boy, a little bit introspective. And I like the juxtaposition of that, to be able to sing in happy melodies, but be able to say pretty sad shit. You know what I mean? So for me, it tells another part of the story. It makes it gives it a little bit of depth in the sense of like we are, you know, happiness is right there. You know what I mean? Like, and not to get too heady, but like the production was supposed to be happy, like feel happy. Like some of them are like more like solemn and get darker or whatever. But like I know for the title track, "It's OK Loverrr," it was like I liked it so much because it was so happy and bright and like almost like a pop song. You know what I mean? Like so, um, I think we intentionally was picking songs that or sounds that was in that soundscape or whatever, but joy and pain are two beautiful processes that we go through to grow. You know, it's like you grow through the things. Like literally, if you go to the gym and work out, you're gonna be sore. It's like growing through pain. Any accomplishments that you reach or whatever, it's like growing through joy. You know, you have to be better than the last thing that you did.
Why do you feel like that juxtaposition was so important for you to create, right? Because there's that dynamic of happy and sad, and they're polar opposites, but the way that they can come together can create something great.
You know, some things at sometimes can be more happy. Some things at sometimes can be more sad. But it's what you said. It's like it's about noticing when things are happy and noticing when things are sad and finding the balance between those two to inform each other, you know? So it's like when shit is happy, you take notice of it. It's like this is what I want more of. When things are sad, take notice of it and be like, this is what I want less of. And it helps to inform your habits and your behavior so that you don't make maybe the same mistakes that make you sad, or you make more of the same choices that make you happy.
And for you, this project, it's not the first time that you've gone a more alternative route, right? You had just like the movies, the whole project overall had a different sound. So this follows along the lines of what that sounded like a little bit more, but it's vastly different from your Save Money counterparts. Why do you feel like it was so important for you to separate yourself in this way?
Cause fuck them niggas. Nah. Nah, cause all of my brothers are just so talented at what they do. And I think that my brother Nico told me about this book, or I guess this concept. I can't remember if it was a book or a concept. And it's like uh Red Sea, Blue Sea type shit. It's like a big fish in a small pond, or big fish in a small pond, or small fish in a big pond, right? Um and the idea kind of is like a Red Sea is occupied. It's like it's survival of the fittest. There's all these things this in this ecosystem where it's like everything's struggling to survive and shit. And then a blue sea is like clear. It's like nothing's in there. And I think that you always create your blue sea when you are who you are integrally. So it's like, yeah, I know I could rap. Like I know I could rap pretty well. Like I know I could rap better than a lot of you niggas. But does that serve me because I'm literally right next to Joey all the time, or like making music with Joey all the time, or Vic all the time, or Chance all the time? And that's their brand. Is like Chance's name is Chance the Rapper. So like he gonna rap. It's his job to rap. Joey is one of the best rappers I ever heard in my life. And Vic, one of the best rappers I heard in my life. And yes, I could rap just as well as y'all niggas. But at the same time, it's like we don't need four of us doing the same thing, especially when true to my heart, like that's the music that comes out of me. Like It's OK Loverrr is the like that first song made it in as soon as the beat came on. It just happened. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't I had to write anything down. It just happened. So I'm like, I'm not gonna run away from that just to like do the same thing that so many other people can do well. You know what I mean? Like if not better than me. I'll never admit it, but like if not better than me.
I really see that film aspect intertwined with your music because there's so many moving parts, there's so many different layers, just like I was saying, and you're telling a story outside of those lyrics. you're telling a story with the feelings that you invoke through people. I was just telling my producer earlier, right? Your music is more so, it's deeper than what most people would think it is. And you have to really take a listen to not only the words, but then you got to take a listen to the feeling that you're getting for each listen.
Appreciate that.
In what ways do you feel like you've grown since the inception of the group? You know, the collective was originally meant to be for fashion, right?
Nah, hell nah.
For real?
Yeah, nah. What? We was rapping.
You said it in another interview.
Nah, I don't know what I was talking about because
You
these niggas can't dress as good as me either.
you said it in another interview. I would have never pulled that shit, but
Nah,
nah.
you know what? No. I'm tripping. What I did say was we started off, we linked up because we was still in clothes. Like we was still in clothes, like, and like we just
Save
love.
money.
Nah, real T, like it all makes
Okay.
sense, right? Like that's how the whole shit came about for real. Like we was real life, like doing it, risking it all for fashion. So yes, in a sense, it was a fashion thing. Like our love for fashion and getting fly and shit, like all powered our friendship. But I think like when we started being known, it was like because we was like really loved music. You know what I mean? But it was like hand in hand type vibes. So it's like fast forward, you could see that though. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody fly, like everybody knows how to make music. And it's I think now it's just about taste. So like even with the film shit, it's not even like it's not necessarily I want to be anything concretely, like I want to be a fashion person or a musician or a director. I just want to do all of these things that require my taste.
So then, in what ways do you feel like you've grown since the beginning of the group?
Just as a man, first of all, like, but I think there was a lack of discipline that motherfuckers have. Like maybe just when you just growing up in general, it's like you just doing whatever come to your like you just doing whatever. Now it's kind of like pretty much know myself, and granted, like I might still make whatever mistakes I make, but like I know my pure intentions. Back then I felt like I kind of was still struggling to like know what message I wanted to give people, like who I wanted to be, like all sorts of shit. So I think the biggest growth is knowing myself. Like that's the biggest thing I think that I've grown on integrally is like I just know myself. So I know when I do something wrong, I know why I did it or like what like the circumstances that created that situation. And I generally don't tend to do things nowadays that I don't want to do.
So then, what do you feel like's the toughest lesson that you had to learn about yourself?
It was about self-control. Like not I feel like I always felt like I was in control, but then it's certain things that just I learned that it's certain environments, certain things I can't be around, certain people I can't be around. Otherwise, it kind of jeopardizes my self control. And it's not ever anybody else's like fault, like when you do some shit, but it's like just knowing yourself. Just, it's certain people who can't drink or some shit. You know what I mean? On some like alcoholic shit. And it's not because they're not good people. It's just like they just crash out when they do certain things. So I just stopped trying to like put myself around certain people, certain shit that just made me feel like I lost control.
Do you feel like it was necessary to prevent all of that bad shit from happening?
Hell yeah. Shit. Like I would rather less bad shit happen in my life.
So real quick, like I said, this whole thing's not gonna be about save money. This is just the introduction, and it allows us to transition to the next part, right?
mm,
So previously, you mentioned that save money was almost a healthy competition,
mm.
right? It's a group of you guys that obviously want to one up each other. You guys grew up together. There's a lot of things that you guys went through together. So do you feel like this healthy competition aspect is still true to this day?
It's like my real family. So it's like you grow up in a house with your brother playing video games or something, you're gonna want to beat your brother. So it's all healthy. It's all based in love, like. But at the same time, it's not dependent on that. It's not like I'm trying to compete to hurt anybody. It's like what's the shit? Iron sharpens iron.
Do you feel like it ever created a divide?
Maybe sometimes maybe just naturally, like you might somebody might be on their shit and you're not on your shit, so that might make you feel a certain type of way, and you might kind of like, damn, I gotta step back or take some steps to go get on my shit, and that might feel like a divide, but it's never really a divide. It's just always that's why it's healthy because it's like based in being constructive.
I think that's the most important aspect of that, right? Realizing that it's nothing bad, it's not a negative thing, and I don't feel any negative feelings towards the people involved, but I look at it as they're pushing me to be better than I was yesterday.
Hmm.
Two people that are heavily mentioned whenever, people talk about Kami is Vic Mensa and Joey Purp. You guys went to Whitney Young together.
Hmm.
How did they help you grow as both a professional and a person?
Those two people particularly are probably like to your last question, who keep me on my toes the most. Um, just cause I just respect their talents, like I just respect them as men. Um, so we always inform each other's decisions to whatever degree, So, and we have similar tastes, so I could trust them, and I could trust them in just like just as human beings. So they've just informed my growth because whenever they grow, I feel like I grow or I'm close to growing or like I can get an example of growth from them.
How do you feel like they've helped you grow as a person, though?
We all kind of struggled, not struggled, that's the terrible word. Well, no, you know what? It is what it is. Like we all went through like whatever we went through as shorties, like maybe with just drugs and shit like that. And I'm watching like Vic's sober now. Like fucking um, Joey like, I just watched him like get real disciplined and hyper focused on like I don't know boxing or some shit, and I'm just like, like we always been like recently in the last maybe like 3-4 years we've been in like the gym consistently and shit, but like just having people to keep me accountable and shit like that just has helped me grow um in a sense of like values and habits and shit, you know like we all kind of bounce off each other in that way where it's like I'm doing this thing, or like I've you like maybe you're watching me do something that I'm putting a lot of time and energy into, standing on some business or whatever the fuck, and it helps you grow or helps you inform like this is possible for you too. And then I can see, y'all doing shit or them doing shit that is like um that I could see that's possible for me as well. So like any accomplishment, any big or small thing that is like a forward progression in their life has helped me grow too because they're like two of my closest friends.
Those are the homies for
Yeah,
the way you talk about them is literally how I talk about, my closest friends.
for sure.
So, I mean, the love is there and it obviously, shows. Another person that was crucial to your development was your grandma.
Yeah, for sure.
Your developmental years, she was the one that was around. She made sure you were okay and she made sure you became the person you are today. What kind of environment did she create for you in those early years?
So I actually went back to Ghana with her when I was like 10 months. I stayed there for like 6-7 years or 6 years, something like that. And I think the environment was just again of like just nurturing me, um, trying to make sure that like, I took things like education seriously, faith seriously, um, just kind of making sure that I understood that the world was bigger than me. My mom was going through a lot. I think it was just important for her to like give love to the child. So as a child, I never felt like unloved, even though there was like things that I didn't have that maybe I saw other people had, but I never felt like you notice it, but I never felt like I didn't have love like that. I never ever felt that.
She made it feel like it was your normal.
Exactly.
That's the best thing she could have possibly done, right? Make sure that you're loved and make sure you feel like your childhood is as normal as possible. Because now growing up, looking back, you're like, damn, that was a unique ass
Whole
situation.
different type of vibe, yeah. So yeah, nah, she definitely gave me the stability. So RIP her.
What qualities did she instill in you?
The biggest one was just integrity. So as wild as you get, as you know, as crazy as life gets, it's like you gotta just be accountable. You know, you gotta be accountable for the things that you do that make others suffer. You gotta be accountable for the things that you've done to yourself to make yourself suffer. Um, and I think she taught me that through faith. I remember her giving me stories from the Bible specifically, and Job was a big one where it's just like you lose everything, but you stand on your values, you know? Like you stand on what you stand on. You don't switch up on people. Even in like when you fuck up, you double down on being solid. That was her big thing for me. She taught me about integrity. Um and being just and being just being real, like with yourself and others.
How have you continued to carry that throughout your life?
It's always been a part of me to like be uh be there for people, be there for myself, be there for my people, be there for, you know, anybody that I can be to whatever capacity. Um so, you know, and just to show love, like it don't cost nothing to show no love.
When you're active, when you're paying attention to what other people got going on, and it doesn't have to be career wise, right? Just paying attention to maybe they're not as active as they once were.
Mm,
Maybe it looks like they're going through something. I ran into somebody at the store the other day, and you could just tell like she was drained,
mm.
all her energy gone. And I'm like, damn, like that's not normal. That's not you, right?
You knew her?
Yeah, I knew her. No,
Okay,
I knew
okay.
her. It doesn't hurt for me to, reach out and say, "Hey, like, you good?" Like,
And check in.
just check in, right? Because at the end of the day, that could make somebody's day.
Right.
That could make sure that, they keep on going. They have motivation. There's a lot of people that don't care in this world whether a person's okay. And that's terrible because we're made to just spread love. We're made to make sure that others are, you know, still in a positive mental state.
Right.
And when other people just keep bringing on the negative energy, it's like, why?
It was like a meme, but it said some real shit. It's like we had all this like freedom and we had like the whole earth and niggas decided to make up credit scores. So it's like I'm like that shit funny, but it stuck with me. I'm like, damn, we do just have the choice to not do half of the shit that we do. To what you said about like running into Shorty, um, and seeing her going through some shit, and you like the for you, you was like, let me check in with you, reach out to you. For somebody else, let's say you ran into somebody who you didn't really fuck with like that, and you saw that they was going through it, you might take that opportunity to stun on them, or like not stun on them, but like, oh damn, that's fucked up, huh? Like and like do some, you know what I mean, or feel better about yourself. Not even necessarily stun on them, but you might take the opportunity to feel better about yourself. It's a path, it's a choice, right? Like motherfuckers be um historically have chosen to like or chosen choosing not a word chosen to like you know, do the thing that empowers them or do the thing that empowers, for lack of better terms, us, you know? And I think being kind and showing compassion and showing up for each other, it's like that creates more energy. You know, when you empower just yourself, that's good for the time being. But say something comes and takes away that power. Now you don't have nothing to kind of like fall back on because you haven't empowered nothing else. You just have yourself.
To that point, right? You're creating a bigger impact then. When you're by yourself, there's nobody pouring into you.
Hmm.
So now your cup's gonna remain half empty forever for however long you decide to, be a lone wolf. So by creating that community, now you have people that are gonna back you and
Exactly.
help you when you're down.
Yep.
So I think that's an important thing to think about, right?
Mhm.
Um, but taking it back, your grandma was a vital part into who you are.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, she recently passed, and just like we were talking about earlier, my condolences. Truly, we had a conversation about that. We'll talk about that later. But um, where do you feel like you're at currently with the grieving process?
My grandmother lived a full life, and she didn't like live to be the like she passed at 88, and that's a long time. But people lived to 95s, 96, 102s, all sorts of shit. But she lived a full life in a sense. Is like she touched a lot of people's lives. She touched a lot of people, like a lot of people. For her to be the woman that she was, I can't be too sad about it. Like it'll almost be selfish to be sad because she went out on her own terms. So I've accepted her death, um, because I didn't want her to be sick and like living like sickly. So she's gone, and I knew that she died believing in something. So I know she passed happy, like purely happy. I know she did. Like, and I got to see her like in the summer before she passed. And the only thing that made me so sad was that I was going um back to see her um to just around like my birthday and shit. So I wanted to see her, celebrate my birthday with her and shit like that. And I think that was just like that was the saddest part, is because she passed right before I got there. And so um yeah, that's I've the losses, I'm not really too sad about it. I'm happy because she was happy. Like I've accepted that she's just that's part of life.
Like I was telling you, at the time when I created this, my grandma's passed.
Hmm.
And my second grandma was a lot closer with her. She lived with us. So
Hmm.
that's where that relationship comes from, right? You live with somebody, you see them more often. You
Right.
build that relationship. And similar situation, right? She found out she was sick and she said, "Now's my time." Right? I don't know the full story for you, but for my grandma, she went out on her own terms. She didn't want to continue to try to find treatments that are going to make her feel worse,
Right.
right? Because when you go through something like chemo, it saves your life, but at what cost, right?
Right.
Because if it's so far along where the chemo's only going to prolong your life but with terrible conditions,
Mhm.
it's like, well, you got to accept what's coming. And when they accept that, you learn to accept it and you
Right.
learn to cherish that time that you have left with them. And that's really what happened with my grandma, right? Everybody started coming around, which I felt some type of way about, because it's like, you guys are all coming around now that you know she's sick, but we've been here every single day. I didn't really get to spend time with her anymore because now there's 50 people coming to see her. And like you said, right, she impacted a lot of people. She was able to live a full life and she enjoyed her life. But you also wish that you had that time to, at least have one last moment with her.
That's why it's that little line of like, is this selfish or not? Cause like you said, like you spent so much time because you lived with her. But on the other hand, it's like, damn, you know that this might be your last moments with her, so you want that time too. So it's just that like it's that catch 22, I guess, like because it's like on one hand you don't want to be mad at the people who she also has relationships with to come spend the time with her. But it's like, what the fuck was y'all, you know, when nothing was going on? I think it's always about like leaving knowing that she left on her own terms, leaving knowing that you cherished your relationship with her. Like, cause 10 years down the line, that's what you're gonna take away from it. Not the fact that you was pressed at a certain moment. You know what I mean? Like, cause that shit is neither here nor there. It's like you have memories with your grandmother. You have like foundational memories or like things that made you the type of person you are.
I looked deeper into the lyrics after we talked this morning. Foundation. Say we crying out, but we letting go because it's necessary. The funerals is like interludes to remind us how life was just a musical.
That should be so crazy when music catch up to us, like to your life. Cause that shit definitely was written before my grandma passed. But it's like I think your soul speak from every point of time. You know what I mean? Like it's never like tethered to like whatever moment that we living in. It's kind of always like you might be talking to yourself from just a feeling, you know? Like maybe you've seen somebody else go through that shit
Have
before.
you gone back and listened to that song since then?
No.
How does the meaning of this song change now that you're experiencing it?
Those lyrics particularly are just like spot on, you know. Like the funerals is like interludes is like that's pretty accurate. It's like death is like an interlude. It's like it's it's sad. Most interludes are like, you know, short, sad, um, not necessarily sad, but like just moments of like reprieve, life being like a musical. It's like, yeah, it is. You know, there's like crescendos, there's high parts, there's low parts, there's all these things that come together to make this beautiful experience. So yeah, it just always baffles me like when as an artist or as a musician you talk about something and it don't necessarily even be happening or maybe some version of it is happening but it's later on down the line it like it's like a Lil Wayne bar. Like some shit that he said that just hit you like 10 years later like damn.
I realized that when somebody close to you passes, it solidifies the idea that death is permanent. You don't really think about it too often. Who really thinks about death when other things are going on in life? Just like you said, right? We're so focused on various different things that we cut out one part of our life. Death being one of those. How has the death of your grandma reshaped the way that you look at loss?
I think her death particularly taught me a lot about release, like letting things go and letting things um just accepting things, you know? Like you can't fix everything. You cannot fix everything. You cannot change everything. As much power as you can accrue, like you cannot change and fix anything that doesn't want to be changed or fixed. And death is one of them things. And going back to the example of Robin Williams, because I don't feel like I finished it, but you know, he was loved, he was funny, he was rich, he was all these things that was like uh, you know, outside looking in, took his life. So at the end of the day, I think release is really big for me right now. Just like knowing like I don't have to hold on to things for too long. Maybe you do try to fix things. That's what like we was talking about like treatments and shit for cancer. It's like you try, you definitely try. You try as hard as you can or as hard as you want to, and then accept you got to because that's just part of this shit. It's like it's not natural to you know to keep shit on life support. It's not natural. You can't just be in some shit just for the sake of doing some shit.
Speaking of release, what do you feel like's one of the what do you think something you had to let go of to move forward?
It's OK Lover the album. I had to release that bitch and motherfucking you know, make sure that niggas walking up to me asking me when I'm dropping music know that it's out.
That shit was crazy. That shit, man. I'm over here standing at the door. I hear that shit. I'm like, damn.
Like nigga. But that's more work that need to be done, you know. That's why we on Sapboard Radio. But some shit that I have to let go of. It's a lot of shit that I have to let go of. friendships, relationships, just things that you gotta let time do. Just time do the work. Shit that you just gotta let time do the work. Like you gotta figure out if you gotta keep putting energy into some shit or you gotta, put energy into other things that are completely separate from those things.
And for you, loss is something that has been around for you since early on. You know, not necessarily in the sense of death, but you lost out on having both parents present. No knock to your mom, because I know your mom was around, obviously, once
Yeah,
you
no.
came back, but your dad was incarcerated for 20 years. What kind of impact did this have on you mentally as a youth?
I wasn't really lacking in love, but I think it came a point where you started comparing your life to other people and like seeing them having, you know, like both parents or whatever. And then like my mom remarried and like I have a father, like a father figure, a stepfather, but he's my father. But at first we didn't really get along, you know. So like that made me really think or fantasize about having my father, like knowing my father. But then as you get older, you realize things for what they are and the type of people that people are and shit like that. And, you know, now I just look back on all of it. That was just my experience. Like it just helped me to become the type of person that I am, to understand loss at an early age. It's a gift and a curse, you know, because like certain things don't affect me as hard as they do, or like I think that nowadays I'm able to like get through certain things more because like shit don't really matter, like or not that it don't matter, but sh- just dealing with certain emotions for so long gives you an understanding of those emotions.
What emotion do you think it was that you had to battle through?
Maybe anger, like sadness, and just kind of maybe a sense of loneliness, because like you feel like, and these are all things in your imagination, because it's not like I necessarily was like a lonely person, like or whatever, but it's just like certain things like you just deal with because, or you learn to deal with because you're comparing it to somebody else's life. But you don't know. Other people had both parents, and maybe both their parents was abusive. You know what I mean? Like, so you never know somebody else's situation to compare it to yours. But um, that's what you do as a kid, though.
Do you feel like this had an impact on certain issues that you faced in your younger years? Because I know, obviously, right? There was a point where you had to go to boarding school because you got into some shit. Do you feel like that played a role into, the way that you were acting?
I think a little bit, but still just got to be accountable for your actions and your choices and all that. So it played into it, but I think that no, it played into it. I think like as a shorty, as a kid, like you just learning these things for the first time, so you don't know how to act, and that's why you act bad or you misbehave.
Because even another lyric I pulled from Foundation, you say, January baby, daddy so dope in the 80s. 20 years later, my mama looking at me crazy, looking at a soldier in the field who was taught to die.
I just heard the shit today. They said history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it rhymes, and like I guess that means like not the exact same thing gonna happen, but like a version of it or something similar enough that's gonna make you remember how it happened the first time. And yeah, like it's we are our parents' children. It's like in our DNA to do similar things, look the same, all sorts of shit. So it's like that that part of life happens where my pops went to jail. He went to prison for conspiracy, basically a RICO. And in what universe should I be trying to sell drugs? You know, Like getting locked up for like selling drugs and shit like that. That shit didn't necessarily make sense. I should like just in general, like no matter what the situation was, it was like I was kind of tripping for like selling drugs to people on the streets, hand to hand. Like that doesn't. The example is already there. You know what I mean? But it's like you trying to make some money and all that type of shit. So it's like you don't necessarily look at it like that when you're doing this shit, but just like knowing what I know now is like should have stayed the furthest away from that shit possible.
At that time, do you feel like you viewed life as there was only one way to make it?
Nah, I viewed life as the way that I wanted to make it. One way to make it, I guess that's real in a sense of like I only had one idea of what I wanted to do. And so like I never really wanted to work for somebody else. I never really wanted to just be institutional, like just running through institutions. Like I never had a real good relationship with like authority figures and shit in my life. So I think I just was like, how can I put all this shit in my own hands at whatever cost?
I mean, at the end of the day, right? You found a way to do it on your own legally.
Yeah.
You're successful to the point of what your younger self looked at success was.
I mean, to a degree, shit, there's always so much more to be done. It's so much like again, can't have motherfuckers walking up to me asking me when I'm putting out music when I just put out some music. So that's not as successful as it needs to be, but we there. Like it feels good to like be able to do what you want to do to live your life, but in the same token, it's like, you know, want to change other people's lives. I want to, be able to be kind of to free other people that I love from the things that they're going through.
Where do you feel like the concept of being taught to die came from?
Everything we see and we go through is like teaching us to accept death. Like where we from, like being from Chicago, you kind of just accept that that shit happens. Like you deal with that shit at a young age. Like you watch people die to this to just recently. You know, like every year I feel like I done lost somebody that was pretty close to me. It's not like you want to die. You just don't really fear it as much as most people do.
Do you feel like you become numb to it?
Definitely. And not again, not because I want to die. Like I have a lot to live for. Like I love my life, but I'm not scared to die.
What do you feel like was the moment that made you start to feel that way?
When I really thought about how my homie Rodney died, um, that was like a time where I felt like it was some shit that niggas do all the time. Like or at the time, like when you were shorty, like you might be in a fight, you might be into it with some people or whatever, and like you get into a fight, and in that fight that you've been in maybe 10 times before, 20 times before, somebody pull a knife out and stab you. And it's like to what we was talking about earlier, it's like some things you just can't control. You know what I mean? It's like you can only do your best trying to be preventative and preemptive to not get into fights. And that's what happened when you mature. Like you like, I don't need to do certain things anymore, right? But like even when you mature, there's certain things like you might go out to get drinks with a friend or like what and somebody might come shoot that place up. Or but maybe again, you shouldn't be in that environment where that happens often, right? But then you might go to you might be driving a sad boy radio and somebody cut you off on the expressway. What the fuck can you do? There's so many different instances where you can just lose your life for no reason. It's just accepting that things are out of your control. You should only focus on the things that you know that you can impact right then and there.
There's a permanence in death. And once you're aware of it, now you move with a purpose. You move with a purpose of what do I want to leave behind once it's all said and done, right? Being numb to that feeling, do you feel like you focus on that purpose?
Yeah, more so. I think that I don't really think about death too much. So I actually think about life a lot. I think one of my biggest things I want to be for somebody is like a provider, like being able to like just take care of somebody because like watching or knowing that my mom had to go through that certain period of time where like the person who was supposed to be able to take care of her just, fell short of that. And then even just like for a child to never like to not feel like me in a sense of like being able to just be there. In thinking about those things, I've also been very cautious about getting into that. Maybe it's like anxiety behind it a little bit of just like who is this person that I want to really do that with.
Do you feel like at a certain point you were running away from the idea of love?
Definitely, definitely. I think through the experiences I've had as a human being, I think I usually can't accept love the way that I want to give love. I think I have a pretty hard time accepting other people's love or like thinking there's like a catch or some other shit going on. And it's like, I know like this year and last year was like the first time in life I ever talked to like a therapist and shit like that. And it's like really understanding the trauma, like what trauma I guess I had through those past experiences. But now, you know, I see why I am the way that I am for the most part.
So where do you feel like the fear came from?
There's all sorts of terms for it, like maybe abandonment issues or maybe like not being given a certain aspect of it. Cause again, like as a kid, I don't remember feeling like I was lacking love. I do, but maybe, like if this therapist has suggested it's like those are repressed. Like, like you're just like happy because maybe you got a new toy or some shit, or like maybe you're just focused on external things, like other people and shit like that, and you're not really knowing what makes you feel good inside.
So previously you've said a lot of people feel like it's a lot of other people's fault that they feel the way they do. Maybe certain people are the catalyst for why you feel the way you do, but ultimately it's up to you to take all of that and process it.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah, I believe that kid. I believe that guy.
Who did you find it was fair to blame for your problems?
Nobody. It's not fair to blame anybody because
But at the time, right? Because there had to have been a point in your life where, right, there was all this anger in you. There was this
maybe I
loneliness,
felt
there
it
was this fear.
at some point. Maybe I felt like my father, but that runs out because it's like my normal has been this for so long. Then there's less of an excuse. You learn to live in the conditions that you're in. Shit, like, and you can always become better than those conditions. So it's like that's why when niggas make it out the hood, like it's a beautiful thing because they become better than the conditions that put them in that situation. You know, so I don't be looking at it as excuses. Just about how bad do you want some shit? How bad do you want to change? How bad do you want to like? It's nobody to blame. It's always like shit happens to you, but then you also responsible for the shit that you do for yourself.
What was the moment that made you realize that you had to look deeper than that surface level?
I don't know if it was like a specific moment. I think it's just always like life happening. And then when you get a opportunity to reflect on the life that happens, you come to like realizations and epiphanies and be like, okay, I gotta change, I gotta do this. But it don't ever necessarily be like a specific moment. But like sometimes you do get that opportunity to reflect with yourself and you like, all right, I wanna do this. It's like somebody being like, I wanna go to the gym now. I feel like out of shape. It's like same thing mentally. It's like you might feel out of shape and you like, I want to change this, and this. I'm gonna start practicing it. You ever had some shit happen to you where you was like, damn, I wish I would have went through this feeling back. Like, I wish this would have happened to me already, because then now I know how to deal with it, or now I know how to feel, or now I know how to process it faster. Going back to a question you asked me about, like, some of my friendships, like, I've watched other people also go through things and had to be there for them. So it helped me through them learn shit that, that I could be like, all right, this is what I don't want to do, or
Mm.
this is what I hope that doesn't happen.
But sometimes you gotta go through that shit yourself, right? Like people say, experience is the best teacher.
Facts.
Because once you experience it, once you go through it, now you're gonna understand like this isn't for me. This is how I navigate this situation.
Hmm.
It's like heartbreak, right? You can't watch somebody get their heart broken and understand how to
Nah,
navigate it. You have to go through it to understand how you navigate it. And
yeah, no, that's 100% fact. Yeah, like heartbreak specifically is some shit that you can't watch somebody else go through. You gotta feel that shit.
what's the most important lesson you learned through a relationship?
The expectation of somebody else should never be to fulfill your happiness. Like, people can provide you with happiness and be like like give you moments where they inform your happiness, like they're the reason why at that moment, like they might do something for you or like whatever. Um but they aren't your happiness. People aren't. Other people, nobody else on this planet can be your happiness. There's not a single thing that should be your happiness, because that's like crackhead vibes. Like, that's like being addicted to something. You know what I mean? And so when I think a lot of people get it misconstrued when you get in a relationship where you feel like you have to make somebody else happy and that person has to make you happy. Like, that's the first thing that I learned is not necessarily the truth. Fast forward through that, you learn like you have to be happy to make somebody else happy. And when you're maybe trying to make somebody else happy, you might not realize that you're not happy, because maybe you care about this person so much that you're just trying to make them happy. But in your actions, when in your actions trying to make them happy and you're unhappy, and not necessarily, maybe you're not unhappy, but maybe you not like square with yourself, you that shit gonna get tainted, because like they say, energy transfers. So it's like whatever you coming with, somebody gonna get. You got to be coming to that situation as to at your best, and your best doesn't mean perfect. It's just at your best, so that you feel happy. Like, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I didn't put myself in no situations. I didn't do nothing that wasn't solid. Like, I just was my best.
The fact that you mentioned, right? Your job isn't to make the other person happy. I've said that multiple times on here, and people look at me a certain way, or they'll comment on shit, and they'll be like, "What do you mean? You're just not making the person you're with happy." But like you said, right? My job isn't to make you happy. You gotta be happy already. I'm here to enhance your happiness. And once I do that, then we can be together. We can be happy together.
That's why the word exists, together.
Do you feel like you're all there with yourself currently?
I think there's a lot of shit that's happened that's, for lack of a better word, sad. But I think I'm happy. I think I'm squaring off myself. I don't think I'm like 100% there. I know there's things that I feel like I want to work on with myself, so that maybe shit don't happen that's out of my control.
What's one of those things?
Just, I think one of the big things for me is what I was touching on earlier, is like putting myself around certain people and environments that bring out maybe a past version of myself, or like just, losing like self control in certain situations and shit. It's just like I'm not trying to really do that no more.
Why do you feel like it was so important for you to learn this about yourself and learn how to process and learn learn these crucial aspects of yourself rather than continue the cycle?
Because I want to make people happy. I want to make and provide for people. So I think that I can't be doing that from a place of imbalance. Like I gotta be solid.
There's definitely this sense of understanding. You understand yourself a lot better than you might have in past years, right? And that comes from accepting certain things and just learning to let go. How has letting go ultimately helped you find who Kami is?
Cause it's like Pokemon. It's like about evolution, right? It's like you might really like how I don't know. Let's dial in on the Pokemon thing. Like a certain Pokemon looks, but once it gets to a certain point, it evolves, it turns into something else, and it still got elements of all that other shit, but it's completely different. It's the name different, the whole like the moves that it could use is different, all sorts of shit, right? So it's like, but would you stunt anything's growth just to preserve what it was? You literally can. You could just be like how you are for the rest of your life, and that's cool. Like certain people are, but I value like being able to learn new moves, learn new skill sets, change my fit. You know what I mean? Like all that shit is fly to me. Like being able to become a different version of yourself. Wow. But to answer your question, um, who Kami is, it's like it all makes for better art too. You know, like all the shit that you go through and accept and release, you put it in the art. Put it straight on in music, put it in your visuals, put it in podcasts. Like say the shit out loud, get it off your chest. Don't hold on to shit because now you living or die. You know what I mean? Like you literally like are stuck in a moment and you're not moving. You're not living. You're just it's just cycle. The freshest thing about life is to be able to change.
What are the major differences between Kane and Kami?
People who know Kane know and understand the flaws. You know, I think Kami is everything that Kane has learned. He gets to share that. Kami gets to share that. Kami gets to be a superstar. Kami gets to do this. Kami gets to, whatever, right? But Kami's just constantly learning from Kane. Kane has to go through all the shit to like give Kami something to talk about.
I appreciate you opening up about everything.
For sure.
You know, there's a lot we covered here.
Spent the whole hour.
Shit, I tried taking you back, way back.
We was there, but pause.
Make sure you guys go ahead, check out Kami, It's OK Loverrr, out now on all platforms. Make sure you guys go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Sad Boys for real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
Broken pieces, who's to blame?